Hello again. All right, we're talking about work history report and something you shouldn't do. I say this because I would say more than half the time people do this, maybe even like 75% of the time. And because they're my clients, it gets fixed. But I know then that probably out in the general public, a huge number of people are doing it too. So, my clients fill out the work history information in a data set for us, and then we go over it with them and make sure they understand all the questions and everything is hunky dory, and then we send it in for them. So everything is thoroughly reviewed and we make sure they know what they're reading and what the SSA is trying to elicit from them. And we want it to be where they understand the nuance of the question. So you know how we have the new work history report? And every job now has 2 pages as opposed to one. It's more detailed. It's an improvement, I think, because it's detailed in areas that are really relevant to the vocational needs of different jobs. And that's the kind of the thrust of the whole thing. Um, okay, so and this is about, say, a particular job. So the big error I see people doing um, is okay, so you have the first question on that page two, page two of the 2 pages for each job, where they give it's in a column format, and you're supposed to put, so standing and walking is on your first line. How much of your workday, hours, minutes, do you do standing, walking combined? The next one is sitting. Those two should add up to whatever your full workday is. Presumably, it's an 8-hour day, most full-time jobs, but some people are working 6-hour job, 6-hour days. But whatever it is, you would put in uh, the first line and the second line. So the standing, walking, and the sitting should add up to that 8-hour day that you're there for. And they actually say that in the directions, but I see people leave, well, like I'm looking at one right now. It was a sit down job. It was a desk job. And the person put sitting 8 hours and left standing walking at 0. It is said that no sedentary job, even if it's fully a sit down job, is actually 100% sit down. There might be an occasion when you have to walk to the supervisor's office or a coworker's desk or the copy machine or the fax machine. And when you think about all that times you're up and about, I mean, I almost want to say when you run to the bathroom, you're going to be on your feet. So that should probably never be 0, standing and walking. At the same token, you can't have 8 hours for standing and walking and 8 hours for sitting, because now we're talking 16 hours, right? Um, Now, when you look down, and I just want to clarify this, they say stooping, kneeling, crouching, crawling. Crawling is technically not on your feet, it's on your knees, but and your hands. Don't feel like you have to take that 8 hours and splice it further. So, because if you're on your feet, standing, walking, uh, that's also part of, you might be stooping while you're doing that. And I would say, um, stooping people, I look at stooping as leaning slightly forward to kind of maybe look down at paper, piece of paper someone's showing you. It could be you're looking down at their desk, not like this, looking down with just your eyeballs, but kind of leaning. They say bending down and forward at the waist, but that does not mean bending 90 degrees at your waist. It's a slight angle. It's stooping, right? And sometimes we're actually hooking our neck a little bit too. Kneeling, crouching, crawling. Don't let those take away anything from the combined the standing and walking and sitting. Those 2 lines should total 8 hours if you have an 8-hour workday. The rest can still be happening while you're doing that. So like you're not sitting, you're standing, walking, but part of that you had to plop down on your knees to get something that fell on the floor, or to, put paper in the copy machine. I don't know if people get on their knees for that. I think they usually crouch or they bend, but whatever the case may be, crawling, maybe you're doing something, you have to plug things in occasionally and you have to crawl under the desk. Don't forget about those little incidentals if that's what happens on your job, even if it's not, let's hear like, well, I only do it once a week. So should it be zero? I think not. Maybe on an average, then, if you were to average that out, it would be less than 10, 10 minutes a week. You could say less than 5 minutes, but you do it. So you're doing it, but it's very little. Okay. Um, and this particular individual did leave everything blank except for the sitting for 8 hours. Every single thing is blank. There should be no blanks in here. If you actually do something zero, write none or zero or put a zero. Do not leave anything blank because it's not clear whether you actually looked at it. So you need to address it. Um, Everything should be filled in with something, even if it's none, right? I've probably mentioned this before. People who work in sedentary jobs tend to say they do no lifting. And there's a section that says, tell us about lifting and carrying in this job. Explain what you lifted, how far you carried it, and how often you did it in a typical day. Don't leave that blank. Do you carry a pen? Do you carry a piece of paper? That might be all you carry, but you want to put that in there. People forget about heavier things oftentimes. However, if you on the job sometimes go to the storage room and grab a box of reams of paper to bring out to the copier, you're going to want to put that. How much does that box weigh? I will tell you this. I think they're usually about 40 pounds. So that would be a 40-pound lift. And it would be, you carry it several feet to several yards. If you only carry one ream of paper, that would be 4 to 5 pounds, I think. 425, not 45. But a lot of people end up carrying those boxes. Sometimes it's like, oh, I grabbed a case of water to bring it out. Add up. Is that 24 times 16 ounces? Is that a 24-pound case? Very, very important, because if you have a physical problem where you can't be lifting a 40-pound box of paper anymore, you're going to definitely want to make sure that that's noted that you had to do that for that job. Even if you didn't have to do it often, because it does say how often did you do it in a typical workday. Well, I would say if you only did it once a week, I did it once a week. And I don't appreciate that they say how often did you do it in a typical workday, because some responsibilities that we do with our job, it's not even part of our job description, but we just have to do it or else we can't actually do our job description. Like we need paper in the copier, and we don't have our little Gal Friday or our little Cabana boy to do it. It should say how often did you do it? Because I think when they say how often you did it in a typical workday, well, a typical workday, I didn't do it. I did it once a week. I did it for an hour once a week, or I did, half hour. The point is, it's still part of that job, and you can't do that job as it was performed, and possibly in any office, because I have a feeling most offices, people are going about getting the paper, The VP's not doing it, but the office staff is, right? And there's not necessarily where you can call and say, I'm calling for help to get paper to put in our, you know what I mean? Like people just do it. It's just an expected, unmentioned part of the job, It's not in the job description. And of course, if you do such a thing, such as carrying a box of paper on occasion from the storage room to the another location in your office, and it's 40 pounds, you're going to want to make sure that you pick that as the heaviest weight lifted, which is your next area of questioning. Heaviest weight lifted. You could click other and put 40 because they don't give that as an option. Frequently, it might still be less than 1 pound, because by and large, you're only carrying a piece of paper or a pen or your cell phone or a pager. I don't know if they still use pagers. That kind of thing. But under heaviest, you want to make sure you do not forget any of those heavy things, heavier, that you might have lifted. It can make the difference between losing and winning a case, particularly if you're over 50. Okay. All right. That's all I wanted to touch base on. It really was about the people leave these things blank And this particular person, under the question, using fingers to touch, pick, or pinch, for example, using a mouse, keyboard, turning pages, or buttoning a shirt, person checked off that they did do it with both hands, but then have nothing in the how many minutes or hours. Like it's totally blank. So we're going to be having a conversation. Obviously, I think I'll have a Zoom with her. Because that's got to be filled in. Same thing with using hands to seize, hold, grasp, or turn. For example, holding a large envelope, a small box, a hammer, or a water bottle. Clicked off both hands and then left it blank. Not good. And honestly, the first one about fingers to use a mouse or a keyboard, both hands, that's probably going to be almost as much time or the same amount of time as she was sitting. Because if she's sitting at her desk 8 hours a day, which I'd say is probably more like 7 because of the need to get up sometimes, that she wasn't thinking of when she filled this out. That's probably all, or, doing mouse, that's using your both hands and under reaching at or below the shoulder. If you are using a keyboard or a mouse, you are reaching below the shoulder. And if it's a keyboard, it's with both arms. So the entire time you are doing something at your desk, you're probably got your hands out in front of you, whether it's grabbing a book, grabbing some paper, looking at paper, holding it up, reading it, using your mouse, right? Methinks you got to look at it that way. She left that entirely blank and didn't put one arm or two or both arms. She just left it totally blank, implying that she doesn't ever reach her arms forward at or below the shoulder. And I believe that would be incorrect. Reaching overhead, she did say with both arms, but left it blank. I'll have to ask because it could be sometimes when you have cubicles, you reach up above to get a manual or to get a file, that kind of thing. So that's got to be, needs to be in there. Okay. That's really what I wanted to hone in on. I'm not really caring about the other stuff right now, but I just happen to have this in front of me today. And I'm like, you guys can't do that. You have to fill it in. Don't assume that they're going to, because the question is like, her blanks, the only thing filled out with all those things where you had to put hours and minutes, like I said, was sitting, implying that she does nothing else. Well, that means you're sitting here like this. So that makes no sense, right? And it's not very descriptive. So anyway, don't do it. Fill it in. None, not applicable, 0, any of those would work. All right. Ciao, guys. Have a good one.